How would you like to come home to a bartender who will fix you any cocktail you want?
I'll have an old-fashioned.
I'll have a margarita.
Now you can with the new Bartesian Duet home cocktail maker. The new Bartesian Duet, Bartesian's most compact cocktail maker, crafts premium cocktails at the touch of a button. Choose from over 50 different cocktails. You'll always get freshly mixed, perfectly balanced cocktails with the Bartesian Duet cocktail maker. And now, get our best deal ever on the new Bartesian Duet, plus free shipping when you go to bartesian.com/cocktail. Entertaining? The Bartesian Duet is ideal for parties. No need to stock all kinds of mixers for complicated recipes. Every guest gets the cocktail of their choice in seconds. Bartesian makes a wonderful gift for anyone who loves a fine premium cocktail. And now, get our best deal ever on the new Bartesian Duet, plus free shipping when you go to bartesian.com/cocktail. Hurry, offer ends soon. That's BARTESIAN.com/cocktail. Bartesian.com/cocktail.
Why do you wear those white coats?
Why do you listen to my heart?
Why do you get here so early? Why are you working on your birthday?
Why are you building a new hospital?
Why do you have all these machines?
Why do you have toys in your office?
Why do you care?
Why?
At Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, we have the same answer for every why, because nothing matters more than kids. Give today at choa.org/donate.
Steering wheel. Lots of steering wheel here. Steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to him. Come on. Whoa.
Do you like my bass? You like it?
How the f*** is that possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph? Did you hear me? From the radio. Ralph, acknowledge. Now come on, close it down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track down the Hanger Station. I am so annoyed.
Hello and welcome back inside the Parc Fermé podcast number 757. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
AKA Negative Camber. Oh boy. Welcome. Tonight, for your kind consideration, we have a lot to talk about, folks. We're going to be talking about the São Paulo Grand Prix in Brazil. And then, well, you know what we do, right?
Seriously, Todd?
Yes.
We watch one, then we talk about it. Then we watch one, then we talk about it. Come on,
That's
Todd.
exactly what we do on a race weekend. But before doing that, I have to introduce my guest tonight, which of course means...
Ripped from out of the wasteland. He's bad, he's beautiful, he's crazy. It's
a three-race winning, 3 races this year, third in the championship for IMSA, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
folks, his team just won the prestigious, or as your folks in Essex, the prestigious Petit Le Mans, a 10-hour punishing race. The heart of racing, number 23, Aston Martin, wins. You hunted down that air-cooled VW of the Belgian at the wheel. Ross Gunn hunted him down like,
down and killed him.
And killed him. You guys finished. What did you have, 6, 7, 8 seconds in hand at the end of the race?
Yeah.
You guys looked awesome. 10 hours pummeling it out. You guys have went from a team that didn't exist under the expert leadership of Ian James, your friend. You came on board, Ross Gunn. And folks, if you don't know much about Ross Gunn, then you got to go to our YouTube channel and watch the interview that Paul did with Ross Gunn. Delightful guy.
Right.
But Roman
Ross the
DeAngelis.
machine gun, man.
Yeah, exactly. Roman DeAngelis put in a grace. Ian James.
He did. Yep.
Everybody, fabulous job, Paul. Congratulations. I got to give you the big applause. It was just absolutely stunning race.
Yep.
Great job, my friend.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, got a little Romy here. I'll take him out of the shot in a second. But there you go. Little Romy. He's going to go with me everywhere now. So, it was heck of a race, right? It's a big race. The crowd are there, a massive crowd. Oh, hi to Melton, by the way, a big listener. He was perched up in turn 3, and he actually reappeared at the end of the race when we were in the podium celebrations. So that was nice. So him and his clan were there. Like many people were, there for the whole weekend, and it was it's a great atmosphere at Petit Le Mans.
It is.
All the manufacturers take it seriously. There's all kinds of manufacturer things going on, so it's a big event. So for us to win it was very, very special. It's we've won 2 races, but we've run them in very different ways, right? The first one we won to a team being excluded, and we kind of inherited the win from that. The second one, it was a shortened race because of weather, and then there was no podium, there was nothing, everyone was running for the hills, so we didn't really get to celebrate too much, but we made up for it after Petit Le Mans, and we ran through the flag at the end of the 10 hours, and we won it in a very good way. I mean, we had some downs during the weekend. We started at the back because of some issues in qualifying, handling issues, and then decided to put some new tires on for the race, which throws us to the back as a strategy move. And we got the strategy right. And definitely at the end there, it really, really was always going to be a fight between us and the FAF Porsche, which it has been for the championship. Unfortunately, the Lambo went out, lost a bunch of laps at the beginning, so they were out of it. So they were the 3 teams for the championship, and so it was just a dogfight with those guys. Great team, the FAF Porsches. So makes it even more happy to win. Makes it more fulfilling. There you go. Hey, there's me. I was very exuberant. I was still trying to figure out why I was so exuberant. I figured out in the end, and I think it is, it's down to obviously the end of the season. Winning
You're
it
happy
properly.
to go home.
Yeah.
That's a great
winning
picture.
it properly, winning it in such a way that we did, fighting it out with the FAF Porsche, who were, as I say, great team of drivers and crew. The strategy at the end just worked great. We pitted earlier than the Porsche. We didn't put on new tires. The Porsche pitted later, put on new tires, and that was kind of a pivotal move with strategy to give us a little cushion. And Ross just slowly let them creep up on us, but saving the tires, but still kept a good margin. And as Ross says, he drove the drive of his life, and I can believe it because he made some amazing passes. I mean, Ian did a great job starting from the back. We moved up significantly in Ian's stint. Roman kept that deal moving and took the lead. And then we fell back a little bit in a couple of pit stops, and then Ross just dispatched some people. I think he passed 3 cars in 4 laps on the outside of turn 10. So I mean, without these things, as we'll talk about in the race, without doing these things at the right time and getting rid of people and moving forward, the results could be very different. So we're very, very happy.
Ladies and gentlemen, is where ice cream can get you. Ruska and getting sponsored by the ice cream maker all those years ago.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the whole team did a phenomenal job in the pit stops. We actually won another award from IMSA, which is the team that spent the least amount of time on pit road throughout the season.
That's awesome. So you guys won this. You guys won the sprint championship.
Yeah.
Third in the main championship.
In the overall,
and least amount of time on pit road.
Least amount of pit lane, and we led the most laps in this season. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's so good. You guys,
we still got something to shoot for now. We got, the season is only 67 days away, so we're already getting ready for that, and it's going to be a big one. So there you go.
Yeah. So good. So happy for you. And I know all the TPF listeners, and it was so cool because I was getting, Aston Martin proper, their social media. They were, they had some video and stuff like that. But it was pretty cool because I had a couple snapshots that they retweeted because I had it directly from the winner's circle, and Aston Martin kind of really, okay, that's kind of cool. They retweeted that. I was like, yeah, there you go. I got friends in your organization. Come on.
Yeah, there's nothing like standing on the pit wall when the car goes past the finish line at the end of a race with the fireworks going off. Very cool. So
it's a great race. I've been to that race 3 times, and it's just a fabulous event. Terrific.
It is. I think it's a sleeper in a way. I mean, everyone obviously a lot of people go there, but people will think of Sebring, they think of Daytona, but this is, to me, it feels certainly an equal to those races.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, congratulations to the Harder Racing team, Ian James, the drivers, and the entire team, because I know you, and as a sporting manager, you're working with all the guys that you don't necessarily see on camera, but they're all making that happen. You know,
absolutely,
and your engineers and mechanics, and you couldn't do any of that without those guys.
No, we had no reliability issues. As I said to the guys, it's like, we got a good car, but one little misstep, tighten the wrong bolt, doing this or that, that makes a difference. And
you could get your wing 0.02 millimeters out of whack.
You can do that too, yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
get a penalty. That's awesome, Paul. Well, super excited for you guys.
Thank you.
I know
Thank
a lot of the
much.
TPF listeners and viewers were super excited and giving a lot of love on social media. So it was terrific to watch. So super happy. I'm really jazzed to see what you guys do next year. This team is just going from strength to strength and really starting to get in amongst it. And certainly Aston Martin, as I tweeted you, I thought it was encouraged that Lawrence isn't just solely focused on the F1 team. You would be legit in doing so, but certainly really investing in that GT series and racing around the world. And it's just, you talk about road relevancy, it's there,
It is. And GT3 is, the big thing there's so many manufacturers in our series, I mean, there's a reason they're there, and GT3 is going to be big, even bigger now because it's headed to Le Mans. So.
Yeah, it's great.
Watch this space.
Yes, that's awesome. All right. Well, in amongst all of that championship and winning Petit Le Mans, which is no easy task, you did manage to get the race watched.
I did. Not live. I did.
Right.
But I did manage to see it in the airport on my way home.
There you go. Yeah. So let's talk about the São Paulo Grand Prix, formerly known as the Brazilian Grand Prix, and if he gets any more camera time, it might be called the Felipe Massa Grand Prix. That guy, you couldn't turn around without bumping into Felipe on camera with a microphone.
Well, he's the mascot, I think.
Yeah. I did like somebody tweeted that on the post race interview from Petit, they saw you and Babindum in the background walking around, and I said Babindum just follows Paul around like a lost puppy all weekend, So you and Babindum are like this,
just like that,
So anyway,
sloppy when he gets drunk, though.
I know he's a bad drunk, isn't he?
Bad drunk.
He's a bad drunk.
Yeah.
He's an angry drunk. He gets in fights, and it's just not very becoming.
You don't want to bring up Goodyear at any point in a conversation when he's had a couple.
No. But that's okay, Babindum. I just bought a set of Michelin's today for my wife's car, so that's okay. Nice. So anyway, let's talk about some of the key elements around this weekend in Sao Paulo. Certainly, Mercedes entered the weekend with a new engine for Lewis Hamilton, so they were always going to be nursing that 5-place grid penalty. But what they weren't planning on was Friday's qualifying. Started the weekend's drama with a rear wing that failed the FIA regulations test, leading to a disqualification for Saturday's sprint race, meaning that Lewis had to start all the way at the back in P20. Now, Max was also penalized during that session for touching Lewis's rear wing in Parc Fermé. But it did bring some, look, drivers have been doing this, folks, for decades. They've been kicking tires, poking and prodding and looking, and they've been doing this for a long time. And there is this notion that Schumacher did it all the time. He would get out and start looking at that underfloor and that diffuser, highlighting certain areas that they may have concerns about. It's dog whistling in a way. But anyway, he was fined 50,000 euros for touching Lewis's rear wing. Not without bringing some focused speculation that really start the whole drama off the whole weekend long. Still bitter about that disqualification, Mercedes entered the race with Lewis starting in P10. And Toto was not happy that Red Bull had yet another reliability change to their rear wing over the weekend, which Toto said this is becoming a routine for them. Meanwhile, Red Bull were dog whistling that Mercedes could be doing something illegal given their massive increase in pace of late. And both teams were making jokes with as well as Sebastian Vettel about inappropriate touching incident and the rhetoric and hints and allegations and innuendos videos were festering all weekends long, fueled by just utter social media lunacy. Like, well, Max went over and torqued the wing, and it's like, dude, do you know how much downforce those things? It would take hand tools to do anything to that rear wing.
That is for sure.
You're not going to go over and poke it a couple times and knock it out of whack. It's not quite that fragile. I could lay on that thing without having any impact, and that's saying something. So anyway, this kind of set the stage for the race and the drama and the intrigue. And look, this is part of the fun of Formula One, is all this politicking and outrage and all that. And it's part of the fun. I get it. But, some of the lunacy gets, and some of the just vitriol and hatred just gets out of control, though. Yeah. But anyway, they got into the race. Let's talk about how they finished. Lewis Hamilton securing the win in a dominant fashion. Valtteri Bottas, a teammate, down in P3. On balance, think about it over the weekend. On balance, Paul, Lewis made up 25 places in aggregate during the sprint race and the real race. He made up 25 places over the weekend from the sprint race to the actual race on Sunday, and there's no doubt that the drive on Saturday was brilliant, but certainly Sunday's drive was equally terrific as well. Fantastic performance from Lewis. Lewis had to recover from the team error with the wing, as well as the engine change penalty. He was determined not to languish in the midfield because he couldn't, and he immediately stormed through 9 cars, including his obligatory teammate, which moved out of the way, to slot in behind Max, and then hounded him for the balance of the afternoon. If you consider the championship was slipping away, well, Lewis needed this result to revitalize his run for the title with his 6th win of the season, and given the pace delta that he had in Austin, Mexico, this was a complete reversal of performance for the car and Lewis, and he managed it to great effect. Now, Lewis missed out on the fast lap point, but he did eat away at the 7 points, basically in aggregate, to the championship lead that Max currently enjoys. And the remaining race is said to be a Mercedes-friendly high-speed circuits in the remaining 3 tracks. So that bodes very well for Lewis and the team in total. So a terrific performance, Paul, in a completely revitalized Mercedes car, and certainly this track hugely flattered that car. But not only in the straight line, but even in the sector 2, just Lewis didn't put a foot wrong and drove an impeccable race there.
Yeah, he sure did. I mean, yeah, it's a lot to undertake starting that far back and thinking of all the donkey awards we've given to some of these people that drive at the back of the F1 deal. It's like, you can be aggressive, but you also have to be cautious of the way. I'm sure that there were a lot of conversations going on before the qualifying race and before the main race about, either whether it be from the FIA, Massey, or alone, or amongst the teams themselves about, this is a championship fight. Please don't be an infiltrator in being a part of a highlight reel that takes this all out. So I think, from what I saw on there, I don't think anyone was handing or waving Lewis by, but I don't think anyone was fighting, to the bitter end to fight him off. I mean, half of it is to do, well, you're not really going to be racing Lewis Hamilton, right? No. So I think some of the waves are path a little easier for him. It doesn't take anything away from what he did, because you don't know who you're behind or who's paying attention, but he had to be careful. He had to pick his spots. He picked them early, as we were talking about with Ross Gunn, in his stints at Petit. It's crucial sometimes. You got to dispatch people early. If you do not, the tire life will.
How would you like to come home to a bartender who will fix you any cocktail you want?
I'll have an old-fashioned.
I'll have a margarita.
Now you can with the new Bartesian Duet home cocktail maker. The new Bartesian Duet, Bartesian's most compact cocktail maker, crafts premium cocktails at the touch of a button. Choose from over 50 different cocktails. You'll always get freshly mixed, perfectly balanced cocktails with the Bartesian Duet cocktail maker. And now, get our best deal ever on the new Bartesian Duet, plus free shipping when you go to bartesian.com/cocktail. Entertaining? The Bartesian Duet is ideal for parties. No need to stock all kinds of mixers for complicated recipes. Every guest gets the cocktail of their choice in seconds. Bartesian makes a wonderful gift for anyone who loves a fine premium cocktail. And now, get our best deal ever on the new Bartesian Duet, plus free shipping when you go to bartesian.com/cocktail. Hurry, offer ends soon. That's BARTESIAN.com/cocktail, bartesian.com/cocktail.
Will increase or will decrease. Tire life and performance will decrease, just trying to fight your way through people for extra laps, so that when you do get to the next person, you've got less tools to fight with. So I think Lewis was very mindful on those first 2 laps of the big race there. I could see in the car he was not overextending himself so much. He was giving himself good distance, and he wasn't torching the tires to get this job done. So he was patient once again. We've seen that from Lewis time and time again in the past few years, that he does have patience with performance, and he knows where to pick his spots. Although maybe Albon may disagree with me, but for the most part, Lewis does know where to put his car and make sure the job is done early in the corner, so it doesn't give anyone else a chance to misinterpret where they should be in the corner as well.
You know, it's just, you know, look, he's a 7-time champion. I mean, you'd expect that, but you know, that sense of urgency, Paul, you know, certainly if you feel put upon by the penalty, you know, you're nursing this 5-place grid penalty. There's a lot of recovery going on, certainly in the sprint race, certainly in the main race. And that sense of urgency certainly had to be present in Lewis's mind for sure, and the team's mind. They've all talked about that heading into it. He had, as you said, had to dispatch. But that sense of urgency a lot of times can lose front wings. And I think in his case, it just, you know, everything was measured, marked. He found the spots to pass. I think Sky Sports did a pretty good job of kind of highlighting how he would lay back a little bit in Sector 2 and then launch off of 12 and up that uphill, because he had that superior shot.
That's the easiest, cleanest, safest way to pass. And with the power and performance that the Mercedes had in a straight line there, that was kind of easy pickings for the most part, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, very measured race and a fantastic result for him.
Good. You just got to keep calm. And I'm sure, you know, I mean, in one way, you know, this is like Lewis's favorite way to drive, right? He's not protecting anything. He's just being aggressive and moving forward. And he definitely was in a zone of that. I mean, you compare him to Bottas' performance. I know, you know, we've obviously, I think the Mercedes did have a clear performance advantage over the Red Bull, but it, you know, didn't really transpose to Bottas driving away from the field either. So I think, you know, the combination of Lewis with the new engine, in that Mercedes was just you know, outstanding and superior to anything else that was out there. Even Max Verstappen, we know Max is a great driver, and there's no way Max is 9/10 slower than Lewis. So Lewis didn't do it on his own, but he did what he needed to do, and I think he did raise that performance, as hard as that is to believe, for the Brazilian crowd, which he obviously has an affinity to as well.
Yeah, he does. Well, they do him as well, you know. They love Lewis down there. Speaking of Valtteri, he lost out at the start, Paul, dutifully let Lewis by, as you would imagine. He questioned the team's strategy. He was kind of thinking that one stopper may have been an easy one, too, for them. The team kind of doubted that. They thought that would have been an odd strategy, and they didn't necessarily agree with him at that point. And at this point in his career, you know, who gives a damn what Valtteri thinks, right? He's leaving, right? However, it worked out in the end for Valtteri, because the team called Valtteri in during that virtual safety car. This allowed him to jump ahead of Sergio Perez to nip that P3, which means that they landed some good points by doing that, and they extended their lead in the Constructors' Championship in doing so. So while he didn't get a great start, you know, he was able to jump ahead of Sergio and finish in third. And so that's 2 Mercedes ahead of 2 Red Bulls. Big impact on the
ahead of 1 Red Bull.
Yeah, right.
Right. I would say it's kind of disappointing disappointing result and performance by Bottas. I mean,
yeah. I'm not trying to cover.
Yeah,
for him.
I mean, he made. I mean, he had a big gain with the virtual safety car pit stop, which else I'm not sure he would have been ahead of Perez. I mean, I think, his job, as we've spoken about before, is to be behind Lewis, not to be ahead of Perez.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's for Lewis to really get help, Bottas has to beat Max.
Right.
And from the performance that we saw from the Mercedes here, I think he had the tool to do it. He just didn't execute it. I mean, I didn't see anything close to what Lewis was doing out there to what Bottas was doing.
Right.
Once again, I think he had a weak start. His racecraft was kind of poor, especially, I mean, he let Perez get by in that on the first lap as well, and that put a difficult situation. He was aided by the virtual safety car pit stop, which put him back in front of Perez, but otherwise he would have been even further back. So if I mean, we heard Toto with his new Howard Jones hair. I don't know what that's all about. But screaming, "Go get him, Valtteri!" is like nothing, no response at all. Valtteri there was nothing. He had nothing for Verstappen, and he should have, I think. So it was. I think I was kind of disappointed with his performance, but I think it's, you're gauging. People say, "Oh, how much difference are the cars?" And Lewis's car is far superior if you're a Red Bull fan, for instance. And is Bottas the gauge of the actual true performance? Was Lewis Hamilton really that bringing that much to the table? I don't know. I don't understand. Because I rate Bottas highly. I think he's actually going to be a lot happier and better when he's in another team.
Right.
He's not doing the job that Mercedes really needs him to do. I think Perez was unlucky not to actually be ahead of him by the end of the race.
Yeah. Well, clearly, it's clearly a race for the record books for sure and highlight reels. But after reading all of the hateful and bitter things in and out of the paddock, I wanted to try to pull back a little bit from the fan base and the festering innuendos a bit and just look at the kind of situation from 30,000 feet, because there's a lot of white noise going on, within the team, from top down, from Toto and Christian to the Sky pundits to fans and et cetera, et cetera. And, you get hung up around the axle on some of this stuff. And I was thinking about when I was writing the notes, just to try to back up at 30,000 feet and look at it. For Mercedes and Lewis fans, I have to think that you may well know that this is the kind of GOAT performance that you've come to expect from Lewis, because you feel like he's the GOAT. This is the kind of performance that you expect that he would put in, and he did. You put nothing out of Lewis's reach as the GOAT, and you know that in your mind that Mercedes just simply outdevelops and outsmarts other teams. This is what hard work gets you. Fair enough. And for you, this is an example of a lot of graft, a lot of fabulous driving from one of the greatest of all times. And this is the result. Now let's look at the other side of the coin. For Red Bull fans, you may be looking at this. You've seen your performance steadily increase over the season. Certainly, you come off of a high-speed circuit like Austin. You come out of Mexico. The teams may flip-flop a little bit depending on the track and what tracks favor the other. And you've seen that kind of on the balance. But Lewis's quali pace delta to the competition was the highest it's been all season long. As Mark Hughes pointed out, it was 3.5 tenths faster than the seasonal average quali pace. And while the new engine could explain some of that, he did pass 25 people in aggregate over the weekend, and that made Red Bull look like an F2 car at this point. And you haven't seen that kind of turnaround in performance since Ferrari in 2019, and we know where that came from. So the Mercedes pace was so dominant that you as a Red Bull fan, you may join Red Bull in your concerns over the legality of what they're doing. Right. Now, I thought Mark Hughes made a really good point about taking that fifth engine at this track in particular with the sprint race, knowing they may be able to make that up. And he made the point, And I could go to the wall with this and saying that fifth engine meant that they could possibly now run the fourth and the fifth engine, because they have both of them now, a little harder than they would have had they not taken that fifth engine. They couldn't run that fourth engine because the Mercedes engines tend to degrade much quicker than the Hondas.
Right.
And so taking that fifth here was critical because it allows them to run both of Lewis's engines a little harder. We'll call it party mode or whatever you want to call it. Now, there's probably something to that. And that may be able to explain some of the delta. But either way, look, if you're Red Bull and you suspect something, then you're going to have to figure it out, and you're going to have to make the case. And if Mercedes, conversely, think that Red Bull are doing something untoward with their rear wing during Parc Fermé conditions by reliability upgrades, they're going to have to make that case too.
Yeah, no, for sure. We don't. I mean, it's one race. I'm not panicking about either or. Sometimes conditions just work. And sometimes they don't. Obviously, it seems Mercedes worked. It worked for Mercedes and no one else. Because the differential, everyone else has kind of stayed the same. So we'll have to see. It doesn't look great for Red Bull considering the tracks that are coming up. If this is the kind of top line speed we're going to get out of the Mercedes. But
it's brutal.
I said, we just don't know what their strategy is. It's just because the fifth engine doesn't mean, as you said, doesn't mean it's the same engine going to use all the way down to the end, right? So I don't know what developments, and how they keep track of developments in the engines as they progress. Obviously, they're sealed and locked in supposedly, but there's always seems to be something going on with any of these engines that isn't exactly the same. The engine they had in January is definitely not the engine they end up with at the end of the year, no matter if it's Renault or Honda
Ferrari,
or Mercedes or Ferrari. There's always something going on, within the tight confines of the frozen engines rules.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Red Bull. Max Verstappen in P2, Sergio Perez P4. Unlike Saturday, Max cured his gear sync issue and got the jump on Valtteri at the start and looked relatively in control early on. Now, Lewis tried the undercut and almost worked, so Max didn't want that to happen again, and the team knew that given the pace of the Merc and undercut wasn't really going to work for them, so they had to protect their track position, Paul. So they boxed earlier than Lewis on that second stop. Now, Max still had a lead after that stop, but at that point, Lewis, on 3-lap fresher tires, unleashed the Merc, hunted Max down, which resulted in a defensive move that the stewards felt was fair, but the Sky pundits and Lewis felt was too aggressive. But it didn't really matter, as Lewis ultimately was way too fast. He had way too much pace, and once he had made that pass stick on lap 59, he pulled out. In lap 59, he pulled out a 10-second gap at that point, which was nearly 9/10 a lap faster, which, led Christian Horner to wonder where that track corrected, where all that pace came from. In the end, you would have to make the assumption that because I do think that Red Bull were struggling with understeer pretty much all weekend long, and the car just didn't, nobody had really ran those hard compounds a lot, during Friday, and then they had qualifying, then they had the sprint race. So there wasn't a lot of hard compound running, Paul. So I think that Red Bull didn't really perform that well in the hard compounds.
Yeah, seemed to struggle in the center S's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think, you could chalk a lot of that up to a increased wick on a Merc engine, struggling front tires on the Red Bull. Maybe that was the delta. Difficult to know. But they just didn't have those hard compounds didn't work as well as they did on that Merc chassis.
Yeah, no. I actually thought Max did an incredible job making that race last as long as it did. I'm not that one incident, but just in general, the pace that Lewis had to be able to actually manage, he's, as we all know, you're managing DRS zones, you're managing sector times, you're managing, battery deployment. All these things are tools to try and keep someone behind you or to try to pass somebody. And I think, with the pace differential, I think actually Max held off Lewis way longer than I was expecting once he got there. We know that Mercedes struggles a little bit in dirty air, and I think that may have something to do with it. But Lewis as we saw after he did actually get past them, the pace he had, it was inevitable that it was going to happen at some point, right? And
he pulled out a 10-second gap, and to your point, Paul, with that much pace delta, it is kind of shocking he didn't pass him earlier.
It is, but he's weighing up his chances. He was patient the whole weekend.
He was
aggressively patient, so it was just more of that, really. Once he got there, it's kind of like, okay, all right, he's not going to rush it. He's going to play the game and see what happens. I think I think they pitted too early. I think they panicked for that undercut. I mean, it was like undercut, madness to some degree. It's like there comes a point, where you've still got to get the length of the proper laps under the tire to actually have a chance. And so I think they pitted. They just panicked and pitted a little early. I don't think it really would have made a difference anyway, but they were definitely knew they were on the back foot from the very beginning. As soon as Lewis dispatched all those cars at the very beginning, they knew he was coming, and they had to make them, have to really think, and that made them nervous. Right. But I think Max did a great job in managing it up until that point. So do we want to talk about the incident, or we're just going to kind of breathe over that? It was pretty obvious that Max did run him out. I mean, there was a lot of passes, very similar types of moves happened throughout the race that didn't end up in that ending point. So I think I hate penalties, but I think that was a bit over the top with how he opened his hands and basically sent himself and Lewis all the way off. So I mean, you can play hard, you have your elbows out, but he pretty much just straightened the wheel and drove them both off there, because he was desperate, right? He knew it was pretty much all over. That's all he had left to fight with, was trying to drive him completely off the track. Hopefully he picked up a puncher or something else happened or whatever, take the 5-second penalty. But Lewis is in the weeds out there and he's not scoring points. That's his only hope. So I was surprised he didn't get some kind of reprimand and the conversations going back and forth with Massey were, I wouldn't call them entertaining, I would call them more irritating. But that's
Red Bull argued that's just letting them race. Letting them race.
That is not letting them.
And then Mercedes was like, what? So just bullying a guy off the track, that's acceptable now? Is that okay?
Yeah. No, I mean, it was so far off the track, it was kind of ludicrous, really, how far they were. I get it. If you push him out, have him run on the rumble strips, whatever. But just as far as he went, that was kind of a little silly.
Max said, it comes back to that front tires. They were struggling with understeer a lot over the weekend. And Max said that actually it was the front tires, this tire wear. He lost the front end. Now, I think Ant Davidson made the case that, if that was the case, typically you'd see some white smoke from those fronts if he was in the braking and losing grip. But Paul, as a driver, that's not the only indicator.
No,
he could be sliding out wide. He could have been after the braking zone and still carrying too much speed in the corner and running out wide, right?
Right. And you can fix understeer in a couple of ways, more simplifying it, but you can either take some speed off and try and get some load back on those front tires, or you can open your hands, because there's a ratio between steering angle and speed. And so if this kind of angle means the car's understeering, you open up a little bit, it can regain grip, even though you're actually taking out steering, because you've gone over that envelope with that much steering input, that much speed. But what Max did was...
How would you like to come home to a bartender who will fix you any cocktail you want?
I'll have an old-fashioned.
I'll have a margarita.
Now you can, with the new Bartesian Duet Home Cocktail Maker. The new Bartesian Duet, Bartesian's most compact cocktail maker, crafts premium cocktails at the touch of a button. Choose from over 50 different cocktails. You'll always get freshly mixed, perfectly balanced cocktails with the Bartesian Duet Cocktail Maker. And now, get our best deal ever on the new Bartesian Duet, plus free shipping when you go to bartesian.com/cocktail. Entertaining? The Bartesian Duet is ideal for parties. No need to stock all kinds of mixers for complicated recipes. Every guest gets the cocktail of their choice in seconds. Bartesian makes a wonderful gift for anyone who loves a fine premium cocktail. And now, get our best deal ever on the new Bartesian Duet, plus free shipping when you go to bartesian.com/cocktail. Hurry, offer ends soon. That's BARTESIAN.com/cocktail, bartesian.com/cocktail.
Knowledge is power, and when it comes to your health, the power is in your scan. At Virtual Imaging, skilled technicians use the most advanced technology to preemptively scan your body for underlying health issues. Wouldn't you want to know if you're at increased risk for heart disease, cancer, or other life-threatening diseases? Now you can, right here in Atlanta. Visit virtualimagingatl.com to book your appointment and receive a complimentary heart scan. It's time to be in the know about your health. Virtualimagingatl.com. HSA or FSA accepted.
Way beyond, relieving some of the steering input. It was clear. So he did it on purpose. Didn't get penalized. Lucky boy. Gloves are off, I guess, because Toto was like, "Well, if we're allowed to do that, just let us know. We'll do that every time. That's cool." Because we love hard racing.
Before you get too much on a soapbox over the whole, morality of that move. You've seen Lewis run people wide many times. You saw Nico Rosberg run people wide many times. You've seen Vettel. They've all done it. This here, I don't know if you can see it. This guy here has done it several times.
Yes, he has. Oddly enough.
So
yes. It happens. But there's a confines of the track. I mean, obviously there was so much to run out there. Right. If there was a wall there, would Max have not been able to control the car and they both crashed? Absolutely not.
Yeah. Right.
So he had a lot of canvas to play with right there, and he used all of it.
Yeah, exactly. So. Sergio initially looked like he may help Red Bull finish 1-2 after passing Bottas on lap 1, or Bottas on lap 1, but he eventually dropped back and got passed by Lewis as well as Valtteri, and he ended up 4th, but he did manage to box late for softs, take the fastest lap point out of Lewis's hands, so that helped a little bit, or at least for a point. The issue for Red Bull now is, Paul, how to deal with the massive straight line speed the Merc has on the remaining 3 tracks, which look to flatter the Mercedes with that kind of performance advantage. And I suggest that not only Max and Red Bull, but Sergio, all of them have a lot of work to do in these last 3 races trying to stay out ahead of Mercedes at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they have to bring back some of their straight line mojo. Didn't they have it at Paul Ricard where Mercedes were complaining about how fast the Red Bull was in a straight line? So maybe they just got the equation wrong, and they had too much downforce.
Well, that was back when the wing, remember, and it forced the FIA to stiffen up the wing, so Red Bull had to change their so it happens. It's happened to Red Bull.
Then it's not going to be like it was here. I think, as you say, Red Bull are going to go back and try and figure out how to get that car to go faster in a straight line so they can fight the Mercedes, because otherwise, those points are going to gradually, go down the bucket. So I think they're going to get some of it back. I think we're going to be a bit more normalized for the last 3 races. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, obviously. But they've got to change what they have done in the past, at least this race. So
right. Ferrari, Charles Leclerc, P5, Carlos Sainz, and P6. Ferrari managed to equal their result from Mexico with a 5th and 6th, or 5th for Leclerc, 6th for Sainz. This goes a long way to pulling safely ahead of McLaren in the Constructors' Championship. Sainz had a slow start, Paul, ended up touching wheels with Lando Norris, and this allowed Charles through. And Carlos said he wasn't happy with the results at all because had he gotten a clean start, he felt like he could have been 5th instead of Charles. And beyond that, there wasn't much to be positive about for Carlos. So kind of down on the weekend, finishing 6th. And I sense there's, a pretty healthy little battle going on between him and Charles.
I think you're right.
And we all talked about, Vettel, Vettel, he got Charles and he's beating him, and Vettel's just got red missing. But Charles take no prisoner, man. Mm-hmm. He's got Carlos, who's a pretty amenable guy in there, and now he's got Carlos, pretty upset too. So I think there's a good hammer and tongs battle going on between these two.
I agree. I mean, we even saw it at the start of the race, right? It's a little easier for them to fight right now because they seem to have the upper hand on McLaren.
Yeah.
Before it was like, oh, Ferrari versus McLaren. Now they've kind of got building a little gap there to McLaren. Now it's like, okay, which one of us is going to be the golden boy by the end of the year? So it's good fun to watch. It's probably going to get a little more tight, I would say, by the end of the year if they can keep that cushion on McLaren, because Ferrari will kind of let them do what they need to do to beat each other. So
I think Carlos has figured out that Charles is no Lando. They're not going to chum around and have fun. And
oh no, I can't even imagine that. Yeah, Charles, he's got a cute smile, right? But,
my daughter thinks he's cute. Yeah,
behind the wheel, he's. I mean,
he's
in the right hands, he's a world championship material also. So Charles is of the same ilk.
He is
as of being basically single-minded on achieving his goal.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Charles said it was a nice race. It was good because he wasn't happy with the sprint race results from Saturday. He said he got a good start. That was the key. But after that, the pace was good. He managed the tires, and he was also happy to see the pace and gap to their competitors increase as the Constructors' Championship points. They now have 31-point lead over McLaren, and that stings McLaren, man. That hurts to lose that pace.
How many points did you say?
31-point lead.
Oof, yeah,
it's tough, man.
Yeah.
And you hate to see that from McLaren. I was pretty excited they'd be best of the rest, but right now Ferrari securing pretty firmly in that position. This was also a Zoom race for Mattia Binotto. He sat home and watched it on Zoom. And anyway, I had somebody ask me on Twitter, interested in my take. They were not happy with Charles and Ferrari and Matthias Binotto sort of just kind of managing the race. That was kind of, we just managed the tires to manage the race. And he thought that, he liked the Maurizio Arriva Bene era when they'd attack, and didn't just manage races and putter around. And I understand his point, but the only counter that I would argue is that that's about all Ferrari's got right now.
Yeah, they're not going to get the guys ahead.
They're just not
all they can do is lose.
Yeah,
it's their place to lose at this point. As you said, that many points. It's because they're not fighting for 25 points for wins. So the points are diminishing when you're fighting for 5th and 6th of gains you can make.
Yeah,
and so that's a pretty big delta of cushion they've got. So they're
not driving to the podium, Paul. They're driving for best of the rest.
Right.
In fourth place.
It's very important for them to solidify that as they move into the new era with the new cars, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. AlphaTauri, Pierre Gasly, P7, Yuki Tsunoda, P15. Pierre didn't have the best sprint race, so he had a lot of ground to make up on Sunday, and he did just that by boxing early, then passing the Alpines to come home in 7th. He initially had some really good battles with Daniel Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel as well, but passing the two Alpines was crucial, again, for the Constructors' Championship. Why? Because now Alpine and AlphaTauri exactly level, 112 points in the championship. So Pierre pulling it together,
on his own,
mind you. No thanks to Yuki. So Pierre just doing that. Paul, we're going to look back and we're going to talk about Lewis or Max and the championship. We're going to talk about. And I hope I remember to talk about the season that Pierre Gasly has had, because this kid, very much in that same vein as the Charles, Max, Lando. I mean, this young man has put in just done a yeoman's job this season.
He really has, and it'd be interesting to see. They have the driver ratings at the end of the year where they try to, dissect away the car, take the cars away from the equation, see who's actually a good driver. He's by far, to me, like a top 5 guy easily of the drivers on the grid. None of the second drivers even come close to him in the big teams. So I don't feel anyway. I think, everything he's been through and what he does race after race. I mean, there's a couple of blips just for car performance reasons, but him himself is a consistent guy that's eking everything he can out of it. And he's a fighter, and he's learned a lot over the past few years. And he's a phenomenal guy that just doesn't have an opportunity to really, be in one of those top 2 teams. just because, you know?
Yeah.
So
if Red Bull isn't interested, then if I was Alpine, I'd be, get a French guy and a French team, and maybe
But unfortunately for him, that's like a lateral move.
It is. I know.
He needs something a bit sharper than that. Unless he thinks Alpine can somehow get a sharper stick.
Well, you never know. If they get themselves an Otmar, they might.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Let's talk about Alpine. No, let's talk about Yuki real quick. Yuki started on the soft tire. He was the only one to do so. But he had a clash with Lance Stroll that scuttled his race, earned a 10-second penalty for the effort. Yuki said that he knew it was a risky move, but he said Lance wasn't looking in his mirrors. But
he wasn't waving him by, you mean? Yes.
Yeah, right.
He wasn't.
But anyway, got a lot of damage on top of the penalty that left him at the back, and it was he tried to home in P15.
He just turned into me. Well, you just happened to appear at the apex right at the last millisecond where no one would, that's what's going to happen. That door was closed before you got there, Yuki. Yeah. I'm sorry, man.
It's hard to lay that at the feet of Lance, isn't it?
No, it isn't nonsense at all, and Yuki just has, we talk about Wayne Gretzky seeing the ice. I think Yuki's kind of looking at his toes the whole time.
Gazing.
I mean, he can turn on a good lap now and again, but man, his racecraft has been showing itself to be pretty poor. His decision-making process is not good.
Difficult. Alpine, Fernando Alonso P9, Esteban Ocon P8. Alpine opted for a one-stopper. They made it work for points. Alonso said the restart didn't really work well for them, but once things calmed down, they had the pace to finish in the points. Esteban, this is interesting. This is a true team performance, Paul, from not only the team, but the drivers paired up. Esteban said that the team were truly operating like a team because they both tried to team up to hold Gasly off. First, with Esteban in front. Then second, he led Alonso to give Esteban a tow to see if they could hold Gasly off. Unfortunately, they couldn't. So they reversed the positions. But they were really working cat and mouse as a true team trying to hold off that AlphaTauri. And,
that's cool. It's that. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they were actually enjoying that process because that's a different discipline that doesn't come up very much in Formula One, is it? Yeah. Teamwork, but amongst the drivers anyway. Right. So and it's with DRS and drafting and all this other stuff. It is something that can be useful and move you up forward, but Gasly was just too tough. But so.
Well, it worked,
but they need it. Well, they need it.
Yeah.
I mean, they need it as tight as that deal is. That anything they could do to get them up is only going to help them next year as well, right? More money means more stuff. Yeah, and they need more stuff.
More money means the more likelihood you are to be able to afford Alain Prost.
Right.
Why not? McLaren, Lando Norris, P10, Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel?
Netflix are real buttons, aren't they?
Daniel Ricciardo. Well, let's start with Lando. Lando had a great start, jump signs, but then the two came together at the first turn, which cut Lando's tire and prompted a box that put him last. Lando said that he tried to come back on the track. There just wasn't enough room. And he felt he had a chance to score more points than coming in 10th. But unfortunately, that cut tire pretty much put paid to his race. So, I don't know about that incident, Paul. You know, he went out wide, kind of went off track trying to get around, and he came back on. And Carlos said, there's nothing I could do. I got sandwiched. But on the overhead replay, there was no sandwich.
There was a lot of room, right?
Yeah. There was a lot of room to the left.
There was nothing he was willing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
What should be. Yeah.
Exactly, because it looked like Carlos almost kind of jinked to the right a little bit there. I was thinking, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Lando went for that outside move. He was kicking up the dust. And, I mean, Sainz had no reason to have to give Lando room, and he didn't give it to him. So there you go. That's what it takes. Lando had to get that move and get ahead, so that option wasn't open anymore, but he didn't, and just misjudged it a little bit. I don't think it was anyone's malicious fault or a dumb move by Lando either. It was just one of those things at the start of a race. But
that's how the stewards saw it.
Yeah, for sure. They don't see everything right, but
that they did, yeah. Dan had a decent start, was running in top 10 all day, had a few battles with Gasly, but ultimately the team boxed him with engine issues. He had a loss of power. The team later today ended up saying, nothing to see here. Nothing wrong with that Mercedes engine. We love Mercedes. No, it was a cracked chassis. That's what caused it. So anyway. Said that the loss of power and engine issues that they had was a cracked chassis, which it could be totally legit.
Could be.
I'm just rubbing their nose in it. But anyway, that's how McLaren finished.
Shame.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Because I thought Dan looked pretty racy there for a little bit in the top 10.
Yeah, he might have got something going and helped the team with some points, more points there, but didn't happen. So
right. Let's see. Aston Martin, Lance Stroll, DNF. Sebastian Vettel, P11. Lance got tangled up with Yuki, as I mentioned. He lost a lot of parts of his car.
He did eventually,
Yeah, just, he's like shedding parts during the race. Even an Otmar couldn't fix that. And so he ended up boxing and retiring the car. So not a good race for Lance. He's going to have a spate of off weekends. I don't know what's going on with Lance, but that left Sebastian Vettel carrying the mantle. He was having a good race carrying the mantle for Aston Martin by running in the top 10 for most of the day. Lost out, Paul, to that one stopping Alpines that actually got around him just to finish outside of the points. And but his stop happened just before the virtual safety car. That didn't help him either. So he just fell out of the points. But
yeah, it was a shame. Yeah, I think he was a top 10 car and driver there. But there was obviously a lot of infiltration of safety cars and virtual safety cars that can really make a big difference to how you're doing, and it was on the bad side for him. But I think the car was way better than it actually finished for sure. Right. In Vettel's hands anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Alfa Romeo, Kimi Räikkönen P12, Antonio Giovinazzi P14. Kimi started from the pit lane due to wing and suspension change, but he took advantage of the early attrition, and then that moved him up to 17th. And then the safety car helped him close up and get into the battle in the midfield. And he was having some pretty good battles there. Kimi said that the car felt quite nice and much better than any other time during the weekend. And he made up 8 places. So things could have been a lot worse for him. But on balance, I thought he had a decent race.
Yeah, no, I think it was pretty handy, pretty good. I'm trying to think, was it in the sprint race or in the regular race that him and Giovinazzi ended up touching or something?
In the regular race.
Regular race, that wasn't good.
Yeah. Well, Antonio's
next year.
Yeah, Antonio's driving for his life. He had decent pace early on, got stuck behind Lance and George Russell. And then when they boxed him, he came back out behind George Russell again, got stuck behind George Russell, and that kind of put paid to his race too. He couldn't really finish any higher than P14. So there you go.
There you go. 3 more races to go.
Yeah, rumors are he's already out. So we'll see. Speaking of George Russell and the Team Williams, Team Dorito, every time I see Doralton Capital, it's even almost the same font as Dorito, Just looks like Dorito Capital.
Maybe they're just trying to, maybe eventually that'll happen. They'll merge.
Yeah, maybe.
Doritos Williams.
George Russell, a handy P13, Paul. Nicholas Latifi down in P16. George had a decent start, but like Latifi, the early stop during the safety car dropped them to the back. But he fought his way back, said the second stint was much better, holding off Giovinazzi. And he said, for us, that's a big deal, holding off Alfa Romeo. And so for us to hold off an Alfa Romeo, finish P13, pretty good. Unfortunately, Latifi had a quiet and boring race, which he said was frustrating. Not nearly as frustrated as we are watching you have a quiet and boring race.
Yes. Every day I've got my Latifi gear on.
I know.
And the Mr. Excitement to break out. That doesn't really happen.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what are you going to say?
What are you going to say? Yeah. I mean, Russell's still showing. He's still trying. He's still pushing. He's still lifting the car further. Probably it should be. So which is good. He needs that momentum to continue because he's going to have quite a fight in his hands next year.
The whole time of that race, I was thinking, I wonder what that other Mercedes would have done if George was driving. Don't think it would have been back there in P3.
Don't think so either.
Nope. So, all right. Finally, Haas F1, Mick Schumacher P16, Nikita, or P18, I'm sorry. Nikita, what? What?
Hey, what happened?
Nikita Mazepin beat Mick Schumacher. Nikita Mazepin in P17. Mick's race was marred by a clash with Kimi Räikkönen, which cost him his front wing. It got lodged under his car.
Was it Kimi or Giovinazzi again? It was Kimi?
I thought it was Kimi. Yeah, I thought it was. Well, it was an Alpha. I don't remember which one. I thought it was Kimi.
Yeah, it was a little unlucky there, I think.
Yeah, he was.
It wasn't really. He didn't steamroll into. He didn't do a Yuki. He was actually alongside fighting for the corner, and the Alpha just kind of stepped out and caught itself, but then also caught his front wing axe.
He didn't go all Gran Turismo and dive bomb into the corner and bounce off the car. He was trying.
Hard, man.
Good. Yeah, it got lodged, and they had to limp back the pit, and he put him in the back, and thanks to that, Nikita was able to finish ahead of him. He said he felt the car was pretty good early on, but the middle part of the race seemed to drop off. There wasn't much left for them on offer really to deliver beyond that. But Gunther said it was a good race because they had good starts.
Well, he's just trying to pull. He's got like this bag of positive thoughts,
Hello, Mr. Mazepin. Yeah, it was a good race because we had good starts.
Good starts. Hey, good starts, everybody. Let's go out and celebrate good starts.
Yeah.
You get the extra biggie fries today.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good for you. All right, let's give away some awards. The first one we always give away is Move of the Race. Woo! Get in there, Lewis. Yes, get in there, Lewis. All right, Move of the Race, Paul. Who'd you have?
I'm giving it to Lewis, and not a move, but the moves of the early parts of both the
25 moves.
Not the 25, maybe the first 5 or 6.
Okay.
Because they were important for both those events.
They were.
As I said, just measured performance, measured passes, but important passes, because if you hang around too long, then the sharp end cars are too far away for you to get. So I thought it was important. Yeah. He did it clinically, and he did it very impressively. Yeah,
no matter where he started, his eye obviously is on Max, and they couldn't let Max get away. Couldn't let Max pull out in a 6, 7, 8 second. It just couldn't happen. So he had to get through the traffic and get to it quickly.
Yeah, and we've seen Bottas has started at the back and not done anything.
No,
right?
That's right.
Sorry,
that's right.
It's like beat up on Bottas Day for me. I'm sorry, Valtteri. You're actually a super nice guy, but
he is. He's a great driver.
But I'm just showing as a comparison that it cannot always go that way. It's It's the drivers making the difference there.
Well, that's right. Let's see. So Move of the Race for me, I had a couple to choose from. My first one, I'm inclined to give Move of the Race to David Croft on Sky.
Ooh.
For wishing Christian Horner a happy birthday 2 days ahead. Not one, but 2. And did you get that? That just shows you what Christian thinks of me versus what he thinks of David Croft.
Yeah. Although
Looking for a fun way to win 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/play100 and use code PLAY100. That's code PLAY100 at prizepicks.com/play100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Let's face it, most people aren't making massive turkey feasts on the regular, and after 364 days of not thinking about it, it can be hard to get that bird just right. That's where Instacart, the holiday rescue app, comes in. From getting all the ingredients to prep a full seasonal spread to getting last-minute swaps in a turkey emergency, Instacart has everything a holiday host needs to save face and save dinner. And right now, if you download Instacart, you get free delivery on your first 3 orders and delivery in as fast as 1 hour. Offer valid for a limited time. $10 minimum per order. Additional terms apply.
Christian wasn't super happy about it either, though. I mean, he didn't like shout at you and try to push you over like he did you.
No,
but,
right.
you know, he wasn't like, okay. But we can say it today.
We can.
Yeah.
That's right. Happy birthday, Christian.
Happy birthday, Christian.
Woo, good for you.
It's tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. It's tomorrow. Yeah, okay.
Funny.
Gotcha. Yeah, so anyway, I thought that
actually, if we can get this podcast out right and people can listen all the way to the end, we need to put like a mission statement to everyone sing Christian Horner, happy birthday, Christian.
Happy birthday, Christian. Yeah.
See if we can handle it.
We should start that. Like every year, we should start a TPF. Everyone, like, you know, all the people listen to TPF, hashtag happy birthday, Christian, and tag Red
tomorrow.
Bull in it.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
And that would be funny. Every year it would come up. Christian's like, what the hell, you know? So anyway, so I thought that was good. Although I, you know, if you're looking for a move on track, I did like Pierre Gasly's pass on Ocon on lap 61, securing P8 and passing the Alpines. So that was great.
Very nice. Very nice.
Well done, Pierre.
Yes.
I'm a Pierre fan. I've become a real Pierre fan. I think he's doing a fabulous job. All right, let's give out Donkey of the Race. We'll do it live. All right, Paul. Donkey of the Race. Who's it go to?
I got a couple.
Oh.
Sorry, I've got Yuki.
That's
for
who
the
I
obvious
had.
reasons we've already talked about. But I've also got it to the conversations to Michael Massey, or should I say the Michael Massey answers back, because it's like, it's so irritating.
I was telling Paul before the podcast, when you go back and listen to that, be honest, folks, wouldn't you want to get off that radio if you're Jonathan Wheatley, go down there and kick Michael's ass? Wouldn't you? I mean, it's like, understood, Jonathan. That's what we're looking at. Just patronizing.
You with the smug look in your face. Oh, my God.
Oh, my gosh. If I was Jonathan Wheatley, I'd go down there and mess him up.
Yeah. It is pretty irritating. It would be frustrating because you can't do anything because this is the guy you have to deal with every race. Oh, man. Yeah. You got to suck it up a little bit.
It's like you can't march into Imps and start throwing chairs around the room. You got to deal with these guys every weekend.
Actually, he would hit me right back over the head with a chair if I tried that. So we've had conversations this year that were tense. Let's just say that. And
it's a good thing he's a friend of yours.
He's a friend of mine, but they're still pretty tense. After a couple of races, we've had conversations. It's like you gotta know when to push the buttons and know when to kind of take a head back so you don't get hit by a haymaker. But
hey, K-Mags didn't race this weekend.
He did not.
He was sick.
He got sick at the last minute.
Yeah. I don't remember who they put in, but
they put in Earl Bamber.
Oh, that's right. It was Earl Bamber.
Yeah, and he did a heck of a job, quite honestly. He just did a massive interview for driving a DP car next year, I think, with what he did, just jumping in the car and going as quick as he did. He did a great job.
Yeah, he did. And speaking of Charsley's and success over the weekend, I do have to mention your brother and the Mazda team taking the win for class and overall.
Yeah, we won overall in the Mazda. The Mazda's last race in the prototypes, race. And my brother's.
And it was Harry's last race. Harry's retiring, right?
Who's retiring?
Tignal.
Tignal's retiring?
Oh, I thought that's what they said.
No. You're talking about the guy driving the Porsche.
Pat
Long's retiring.
I had the wrong guy.
Yeah, Pat Long in the GTD class. He's a big Porsche guy, but I think Harry's got something going for next year.
Does he? Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So good on Mazda. So anyway.
It was great. It was a heck of a race for them too. It's hard for me to keep track of what's going on. Yeah. You know, I try to, but we're pretty intense on our own little race there. But we actually had a word with I told my brother to actually send Harry a message after, was it the last race or the race before, where he just completely dumped Ross in one of the corners, passing him. The DP cars are, sometimes they're rather rude. And we were chasing someone pretty hard, and Harry just kind of stuck it right in there and hung Ross out to dry. And so I had to get on the phone and, hey, can you send this message to Harry, please? It'd be very nice.
Did you have to get on the phone and get loud with your brother?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So he said, I'm going to be right on that, Paul. But he actually did give him the message in the end. Yeah.
That's funny. All right, then the final word is drive the race.
But if you don't,
Get in there, Lewis. Get down. Get down.
Yes. Paul, drive the race. Who'd you have?
Get in there, Lewis.
That's who I had. Drive the race.
Get in there, Lewis.
Hard to argue with the entire
doesn't that
world.
sound forced every time? It sounds forced to me.
It
I just
does.
don't know.
Well, when you've won and lost like Lewis, when you've won as many races, Bono, I mean, how excited can you get about saying,
I don't know. It's just so weird. I think Bono maybe feels like he has to say those words now, kind of like lights out. And he's just like, maybe he's not that good an actor, but it just, anyway. Yes, get in there, Lewis.
Don't anyone upset Lewis. Bono, say it. No, I don't want to say it. Say it. Yeah.
Don't say it. I'm going to send Toto over there. And he's going to tell him to go get it.
Oh, Toto, he was animated. When he pointing at the camera, he was fired up this week, wasn't he?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. Has he got some things going on at home? He was fired up. So anyway, and Christian looked like the very calm one out of the whole weekend. All right, let's do some mailbag.
You got mail.
Miles asked this, Paul. Can you explain some of the strategy behind harvesting and deploying the ERS? How do you decide where to harvest and deploy? How long does it take to charge up the system?
Good question. I don't know how long it takes to recharge the system from beginning to from full empty to full charge.
They usually talk about they kind of took a lap to
a lap. I'm talking like time wise. How much?
Yeah, tick tick tick.
How many seconds or milliseconds of harvesting recharges it up there?
I bet that's a closely guarded secret.
It is, and it's not going to be the same for every team anyway, right? So some teams are going to be able to do it better than others, and there's certain ways of harvesting that generates more battery life than others. So it's hard to say exactly how long it takes, but definitely does take a lap to get the full deal. And as we see, like with Perez, right? I mean, he probably used a ton of battery to repass Lewis there, but there was no way for him to reharvest again to have that same size sword for the next lap, and that's why Lewis was able to just dispatch him even easier the next time. So you can harvest without being pressured for a lap like they do on the pre-race and for qualifying, but I think it's 2 or 3 laps of continual trying to build up that battery life in a race to actually do something really special with the deployment.
Yeah, and the strategy is all around applying it when you need it and intelligently.
I mean, you try to it's kind of like fuel save. You do it when it's not going to affect your lap time as much, right? So if you're stuck behind somebody, you'll deploy more because you're not really gonna, no matter what you're gonna gain on the exit, you're not going to do anything with it. So you'll start saving battery there when you're in traffic, etc.
But you'll use it to defend too, right?
Exactly, and certain corners will allow you to harvest. The longer braking zones, the longer lifting off the gas pedal lifts, etc. There's certain, obviously, as I said, the cars are differentiate how well they do it in those situations. So, basically try and harvest as much as you can in a place where it's not going to affect your lap time minimally. And deploying it is simply just as it's a tool for lap time, for passing, or for defending, as you said, your position.
Right. Great question. Bruce Schreiner asks, would you take a few minutes to discuss with Paul what the duties of a sporting director or sporting manager at the track and away from the track is. And go Chiefs. Yes, Bruce, they won last night. Yes. So, Paul, apart from making sure everyone's cup of noodles is piping hot at the heart of racing, what are the duties as a sporting manager?
What is the I only got a few minutes, but off, not at the track. It's about organizing the team, making sure the travel and all those people, maybe everyone's going the right place at the right time, meeting up. It's all the right logistics. Logistics right there. I deal directly with IMSA on technical stuff and transfer that to the team. There's lots of paperwork and things like that to do before the races with IMSA. And I say technical, they send me, there's some technical issues they saw on the car from the previous race that they want addressed. Then they're sending me those messages and I'm sending them out to the right people on the team that need to know it. We're talking about making sure we got all the fuel ordered, all the tires ordered, all the stuff that the team needs. Then when we get to the track, I'm setting out the schedule for the team. There's a race schedule, but then there's a schedule for what the team needs to do, including the drivers, right? The drivers are a big part of what I do, making sure they know where they need to be for the drivers' meetings. I have to attend the managers' meetings from IMSA. So I'm kind of like the liaison in a lot of positions between me and the sanctioning body. I'm there in the debriefs and bringing up certain things that I see that should be in there in between sessions, maybe that'll make the car better. Most of these tracks I've been to before, so I've got my own little opinions on different things. When people like Ross has never been to the track before, they're very open and happy to get input about certain things and certain things to try on the track. I don't get too involved in that driver aspect. Ian's obviously way better than that than me, but there's certain things I can bring up from time to time that kind of help with that. The strategy, talking about the strategy, drivers, who gets in where, how long the stint should be, how the fuel is going, certain things during the race. I'm not the direct link between the engineer and the driver, but I do pass on messages to the engineer to pass on to the driver, or in the midst, obviously in a 10-hour race, there's a lot of things happening, and you need a lot of eyes on the big picture on the race and certain things that come up. And when do we pit? Like at the last 3 hours of the race, there was a lot of us making discussions on what we need to do on when to pit and how that strategy is working out. And also in the race, during one of the pit stops, the drivers all got their wires tangled and completely ripped them off. So one stint Ross actually did with absolutely no comms at all. And Roman didn't have, so I was running down to the guy that fixes the radios, getting Roman's helmet fit, getting it back. As soon as Ross's helmet came out, I was running down, making sure they fixed it, make sure the helmet was fixed right, because there's lots of things, wiring and programming in the helmets and I was like, fingers crossed that when he plugs that thing in, it's right, because it all depended on me transferring the right information for the guy to actually fix the radio right and make the right programming in there as well. So there's no end to the fun.
I can't imagine Ian ever being furious or mad. Maybe you've seen him furious or mad.
No. I mean, but if not within the team, no.
Yeah.
He could get mad at people outside of the team for sure, but not to any degree. It doesn't serve any purpose, right? You just You just move on.
If Ian gets torqued at IMSA or another team or whatever, are you the guy that goes down there and gets loud with him on his behalf?
No, I don't get loud with them. You just can't do that, right?
Yeah.
But you can't. But me and Ian strategize on how to address it to IMSA. Let's put it that way, right. So that we're not just sitting there. And Ian's really good about this as well, because he has individual conversations with the top people at IMSA. I will deal with more the lower ranking people, because there's bigger decisions and big picture stuff going on up there. Right. So you just got to strategize. We strategize in ourselves how to play that issue. We've got something we don't think is right, but standing there and screaming is not going to do. So you got to do a lot of research, and I'm a big part of that, doing the research for facts.
Yep.
And this is what this and this. Here you go. take a look at this because we have an issue with this and we want it to be addressed.
Right.
So
right. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. And as well as the ramen noodles. Absolutely.
Yeah. You got to get the cup of noodles right. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ryan McLeod asked, Lewis was wicked quick in Brazil. Yes, he was. I don't remember the Mercs having such straight line speed this year. Am I misremembering, or do you think Merck may have made some development in this area? Love the podcast. Happy Thanksgiving to you all in the U.S. listeners. Ryan from Canada. Well, hey, Ryan from Canada. I think, I kind of touched on it in the review of the team. I think there's some merit to what Mark Hughes says in being able to add that fifth engine and now have that the fourth and fifth engine to get to the end of the season and being able to run them a little harder.
Yeah, because we know that party mode was a big differentiator, right, in qualifying. And if they can, and they can't do that because now they're locked into the same mode for the whole weekend.
That's right.
But if they come in with party mode already installed, that can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's some merit to that. I think that's a level-headed view of what potentially could be the big gain in Mercedes without getting irrational and start, throwing accusations. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. To your point, Ryan. Christian Horner and Red Bull and Adrian Newey is not the only people that notice. The FIA notices. They have all the data. They can see the deltas, and they're policing the sport, so they're going to be looking at all of that pretty closely, just like they did Red Bull's wing or anything else. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Paul Thompson asks, "Hi, as the extra point for fastest lap is creating some tactical thinking from teams. Do you think it would be a good idea if a point was given for leading the Grand Prix that would mean taking the undercut could give your rival an extra point and creating another element to think about for the teams? Love the occasionally insightful podcast. Thanks, Paul.
Yes.
Hey, Paul.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yes, thanks. He said, Paul, P.S., the next West Ham derby is December 4th against Chelsea.
Ooh, Chelsea. Lovely.
Ooh, Chelsea. Yes, go Hammers.
Yes. That's right.
So what do you think, Paul? Could we find a couple other kind of interesting applications for throwing a point out there to add a little bit to the strategy?
I get it, but I do get it. And it's not a bad idea, but do we want that? Mm-hmm. Do we want everyone? Because I feel like the power of the undercut and the team going for it is something that's kind of fun and exciting, right?
Yeah.
It's a good strategy in there. And then once you bring out, you're kind of penalizing, someone for trying something different or going out of the box. You'd see the strategies normalize a bit even more. And so, no, I wouldn't be I'm not a big fan of the bonus point thing anyway, but I see what would be trying to do, but I think it would actually flatten the different strategies that we're seeing happen.
Yeah. Things like this in Formula One on paper seem like a good idea, but by the time you send that through all the engineering wonks and strategists and the teams, they end up exploiting it in a way that actually comes out as a negative for the entertainment value. Yeah. It just always happens that way. It
does.
Yeah. When you think we're doing this to make it more entertaining, and by the time, Mercedes and Red Bull and Ferrari, everybody get their teeth on it, they've gnawed the hell out of it. And all of a sudden it looks like a rancid chewy, and what you thought was going to produce some really entertaining things comes out to be a slap in the face to the fans.
Yeah. Like that one crazy qualifying process they came up with. This is going to be so great.
Yeah.
And then, or even sprint races, they're going to be so great.
It's going to be so great.
Like, I'm sorry, man. Let's just run a race and let chips fall where they may.
The teams have a way of taking those good entertainment value ideas and ramming them so far up F1's butt they can taste them.
Yeah,
And
they enjoy that too.
You got to be careful with making those sort of things. All right, well, that does it for this podcast. But be sure to stop by the website and share your opinions. Let us know what you think about the São Paulo Grand Prix. We could not and would not do this podcast without our Patreon supporters. So thank you to all of you who support the podcast through Patreon or PayPal. If you feel
people like Melton. He's a patron.
Yes.
Says, it's only $5 a month, and it's like, man, that's awesome. That's great.
It's awesome. It's like
you do what you can, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. So if you feel inclined, you can go to our website, theparcfermé.com. On the right-hand side, it says support us. You can sign up there. Thank you, Melton, to all of our Patreon supporters. We could not do this. If you really like the podcast, you can go to iTunes, give us a good rating, give us some love over there. And as always, Paul, we're going to have a rash of races here running up to the end of the year. But I would be remiss in not congratulating you and the entire Heart of Racing team for a wonderful season, 3 wins, championship in the sprint championship, and winning the Petite. A great result, and good on you, mate.
Yeah, good way to end it. And now it's ended, and then I'm going to go for the last 3.
Yes,
probably going to be pretty darn exciting Formula 1 races.
They probably are.
Yeah, it's going to be good stuff.
So.
By the time they're all over, we're already on my flight to Daytona. So there you go. Never stops.
That's right. All right, until next week when we do it all over again, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Gamer, saying so long.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. I don't feel I've got to prove at all. I don't really want to prove anything. I started as an amateur with no idea or no intention of becoming world champion. I was curious to find out what it was like to drive a car fast, to drive on a certain circuit, to drive a certain type of car.
Looking for a fun way to win 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/play100 and use code PLAY100. That's code PLAY100 at prizepicks.com/play100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Paid actor portrayal.
I didn't see it coming. Life can be so unpredictable. After losing my dad, it made me think about my family if something were to happen to me. The mortgage, car payments, and all the other bills. Even things like our annual summer vacation would be out of reach. I had heard about life insurance through Ethos and how easy it was to get coverage. They were right. I knew it was time to stop putting it off and get life insurance right now. I got on my computer and went to ethoslife.com. In just 10 minutes, I was covered. And boom, family protected. Thanks to Ethos, my family won't have to worry about the bills if the unpredictable happens to me.
Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethoslife.com/audio. That's ethoslife.com/audio.